Off-season development. The season ends. Maybe give your guys a week off. Take some time to relax. 2 weeks?
2 weeks now.
2 weeks.
Mandatory. Well, maybe not high school. But
2 weeks off. As a coach, you get back in the gym. What are you thinking about first for your off-season development?
I think the first thing you have to do is you have to analyze your roster, right? You got to know who's coming back and who you're adding. What are their strengths? What are their weaknesses? The other thing that I think you have to remember is if you're losing like your best scorer and you're going to say, okay, this junior or the guy who's going to fill in for that, can he really do that, right? Like you've literally been putting reins on him. You've been saying, you only can step in threes, right? Have you developed him to a point where now he has freedom and now he's going to be your best player? And if not, can he handle that, right? So working through workouts, making sure that you have people on the right spot or the right seat in the bus. From there, I think you always look at your stats and you say, okay, we were great at this. We were poor at this. Now, does that change? Again, were we a good shooting team, but we were a bad defensive team? Well, we're losing our three best shooters. We're going to be more athletic next year, so we're going to be a better defensive team. So we need to put more time in on shooting. But it really is just analyzing your roster and knowing where your strengths are at, where your weaknesses are at. Not where you want them to be, but truly like where they're at. And I think a lot of times you can do that also by bringing someone in and having them look at your team. Because like all of us, I think we're very blinded to like what we want to see. So having like Penny Hardaway's brought me in before at Memphis to sit down and just view everything that they have going on and just give them my honest opinion. I'm sure all coaches have people out there like that.
We talked about the team questionnaire. It's just, we talked about it a few weeks back, and it seems to get brought up in every single video that we do. I think it's a great tool that you can use at multiple points throughout the year. So now you have this new team. Throw the team questionnaire, see what people are at, where their heads are at, looking forward to next season, and you can kind of gauge your off-season development based on that.
And exit interviews. So, like, you're talking to your seniors that are leaving, right? Giving them the floor to be honest with you.
Yeah.
Right? And I also think nowadays, especially now, I think everyone's voice needs to be heard, and there's this big push for player empowerment. Well, how do you give that? You ask them for their opinion. And I think instinctively kids aren't going to look at you and tell you what they need to tell you. They're going to tell you what they want to hear. So the best way to do it is anonymous, right? Like, hey, sit down, fill this out, and just be as bluntly honest as you want. But then look at yourself in the mirror and see where you can make changes.
We talked the other day about analyzing your team, their strengths and weaknesses, and you brought up a really good point. You said a lot of teams, they look at their last game and what they did good and what they did bad, and they base their off-season development off of that when that's not necessarily an accurate depiction of your season. So talk about like digging deep in the film. Like you got to sit down and really, really understand. You can't just say in our last 3 games we were good at this and bad at this. This is what we should work on. You got to really know who your team is and what your pitfalls were throughout the season.
Yeah, you can't get emotionally drunk. So you can't say, I'm at the end of my season, I play in the conference tournament, and we lost because of this. Well, okay, you played the best team in your league, and they exploited it. They had all seniors, and you had all sophomores. Like, that isn't necessarily what you need to go work on. I think the pandemic kind of exposed this more than anything else. All of these teams didn't lose to end 2 years ago, right?
Yeah, 2020.
Yeah, because the pandemic hit, and you only had a couple people that had lost at that point. So a lot of coaches were scrambling, like, they don't know if they're good. They didn't know if they were bad. They didn't know who was coming back. But then, more importantly, they didn't get to do any development, right? Because it shut everything down. Yeah. So then we got to play, and you saw it early on in this last college season. Your Blue Bloods in particular, like, they weren't able to see who the best player was on their team. Kentucky's a great example. Like, there's a reason why Kentucky, Memphis, Duke, people that are notorious for having one-and-dones, well, why did they struggle? Well, they struggled because they didn't get the offseason to have development with a whole new team where those guys could go against each other and learn pecking order and say, wait a minute, so-and-so is the best player on the team. The coach can yell at me for this. I think I'm the best player because we haven't duked it out in open gym. We haven't had development, etc. So that's why they struggle.
Yeah. What about charting out specific results? So you're really good at this when you came to DePaul. We had competitions, and you were just intense about data. So everything is data-driven. It not only creates competition, but it also creates something for you as a coach where you can look back and say, hey, you're not as good of a shooter as you think you are, or you haven't showed progression over the last few weeks. Like, we need to figure that out. Talk about giving measurables in your offseason. It's not just, hey, we're going to do workouts on Tuesdays and Thursdays and, kind of screw around and not get anywhere. Like, you need to have a laid out plan where you can measure results and show improvement or go in a different direction if there's not improvement.
So if you think about just the game in general, how do you win and how do you lose?
Points.
Yeah, points, which is a number, right? So it's a measurable. Like, that's how you win, you lose. You score more points. So now let's take that into development. Travis Steele was phenomenal at this, and I'm sure he still is as a head coach at Xavier. But he was huge on measurables because the other thing that it does, it makes people compete, right? And that's what an athlete naturally is. Like, even with the company that I run, Spotter, right? Like, we've created a dumb APA that's just a number, grade point average for attendance. And what we found is athletes compete with that.
Yeah.
Because athletes compete. So if you can plan something out and organize it kind of like a game where they get to compete, they're naturally going to do that because that's what they do. Furthermore, if they're not. Like, I remember we had a player at Western Michigan who would come in and we did a 10,000 make club, right? You had to make 10,000 shots a month. And he would come in and he just either wouldn't do it or he would cheat and just stand there and throw it in the gun from a foot away. And at the end of the day, like, you notice that. Now, do you really want that guy on your team? Like, because when it really comes down to it, is he going to compete? No, he's going to find a way around the system. So, like, you get to learn a lot about your team in measurable situations, not just are they getting better, are they getting worse, but who are those people when it comes down to competing and who wins and who loses? Because there's some guys that are gamers. Like, it's time to compete, like, they win.
Yeah. The last thing I want to talk about is getting specific with your players. So not only do you have to identify areas where your team needs to improve, but you need to work specifically with individual guys. I think it's really important in the offseason that, depending how big your staff is, if you're a high school coach and you just have yourself on the staff, but you need to take time throughout that summer or the offseason, whatever it is, to work with guys individually and show them not only that you care, but also start to work with them on what you expect. So when the season comes around, they know, okay, Coach and I, we worked on, I'm a big, we worked on getting to the midline and scoring with my hook. We worked on that almost every day or every workout that we had. So it ingrains in those players, like, this is what I expect from you, and this is what I think you can do.
I mean, I think the best coaches at that right now is Tony Bennett. So the other day, Jaden Shute, one of the kids that I work out, he was talking to one of the assistants at Virginia, and Coach Bennett was actually on the court doing one-on-ones in the offseason. And that's what he does. He works guys out individually. Right. And what he does is now they know exactly what he expects. He's there with them telling it. He's building confidence with them, and they're building confidence in the situation he's trying to put them in. So then when, again, it gets a tense situation during the season, everyone knows he worked you out the whole time. There's no surprises there.
Yep. You did a really good job of off-season development. A lot of drills that we worked on that, like conditioning shooting, for example, was one good one where it's not just you're going to get your guys into the gym and go 5 spots, 10 makes at each spot. These are drills that are working on things for a reason. You're working on shooting when you're tired or shooting on the move, things like that. So we're going to create a landing page with a lot of these drills. The link to the landing page will be in the description here, but we're just going to update that. It's going to be like a living document as we go along with our workouts with these guys over the summer. If we have a good one, we're gonna upload it. So we're gonna keep adding resources to that. So keep checking that out. If there's anything that you guys want to learn about in terms of like specific drills or specific skills to teach, I mean, you can pretty much have drills for any skill.
Yeah, and I think it's really important to keep things extremely simple.
Yeah.
Right? Like, this is my system. This is what I'm trying to get out of it. I'm going to put these guys in one-on-one situations to manipulate it, 2-on-2, 3-on-3, 4-on-4, then 5-on-5. So, like, slow build-ups. But the most important thing, and this goes to players and to coaches, so many people waste times on things that they're never going to use.
Yeah.
So, like, why are we sitting here doing something that I'm never going to do in a game, right? Like, I can't start at the top of the key and dribble 17 times and end up in the corner. Like, in a game, that can't happen. You know what I'm saying? There's other people on the court. So making sure that your drills are realistic and you put parameters on it so it's more game-like, and it's going to be exactly what they have to do.
Yeah, I was going to say, not only is it game-like, but it fits right into your system.
Correct.
Perfect. All right, well, check out that landing page. Like I said, we'll be continuously uploading it, so check it out throughout the whole summer. Appreciate you guys tuning in.